Welcome, everyone. I'm Dr. Emmanuel Edu. This is Eretmis Cyber Chat. We do this every Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, and the goal is to create awareness about cybersecurity, share knowledge, and help all cybersecurity professionals within our community and outside our community to become the best cybersecurity professionals that you can ever become, right? So we are here to share knowledge, to discuss. If you have any contributions, please raise your virtual hand and we will allow you to share your inputs, right? I appreciate everybody's time. It's Friday night. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here to help, spread the love and share the knowledge in the security space. So tonight's topic, we will be looking at SOC, SOC, and how to become a SOC analyst. What are some of the skill sets that you need? But we will dive deep into the operations of SOC itself. And then we will look at, how to pursue a career in that space. So let's get started. I'm Dr. Emmanuel Edu. If you are new to the family, a former United States Army captain. I'm the CEO of Eretmis Inc., a QSA company and a cybersecurity consulting firm based in New York. And I'm the founder of Eretmis Academy. And I love to teach. I love to mentor and train. I'm really passionate about leadership and mentoring and helping all cybersecurity professionals. So enough about myself. For tonight, we will be looking at SOC analyst or SOC as Security Operations Center. And we are going to look at people who work within that center, what skill set you need and what do they do? What are the levels that they have in there in terms of roles and responsibilities. But before we jump into it, we also look at cyber news for the week. And then we will look at, everything that is listed on here. So types of SOC, SOC tools, and the rest, not in that order, but we have more to cover tonight, right? So I hope everybody is going to gain something out of this discussion at the end of the chat, right? So we are going to start with our cyber news. For this week, there are a lot of cyber news as usual, but we picked the ones that we deemed fit for our purpose. So Intel was in the news, and guess what? Intel got hit with a fine of 400 million euros, $400 million, which is equivalent to 376 million euros. And the reason for this was that they were trying to kick their competitors out of the market, and is against Europe's competition rule. So this happened, it happened November 2022, between November 2022 and December 2026. 2006. So 2002 and 2006, we are in the 2020s. So, but they were, I think like the case was in court back and forth. Initially, I think the European agency, the European Commission, was looking for almost $1 billion, but the judge threw that out of court, and then they settled on this one. So this one, indeed, they were found guilty, and they had to pay this money, right? Simply because they were trying to, kick or trying to push their competitors out of the market. And the allegation was that they paid Intel, HP, Intel paid HP, Acer, and Lenovo. They gave them money to either halt or to delay using products from their rivals, right? And Intel, if you don't know what Intel does, I mean, they are big in the security, huge in the security space. They produce chips that we use in computers and other devices, right? So Intel trying to push everybody out of the market resulted in this. But this money is still really nothing compared to what Intel has made from 2002 till now, right? It is really nothing. So next in the news, we are talking about lawsuits for tonight's cyber chat. So another lawsuit in the cyberspace is ChatGPT. So what are they in court for? So GPT, they've been in court, they've been sued left, right, center, simply because of data, right? Some people are claiming they are using their data without their permission to train their AI, which is Chat GPT. So they sue the mother company, which is OpenAI. Not, I mean, you can't sue Chat GPT is a product, not a company on its own. So they sue the company that created Chat GPT, and they are in court. And they were guess who sued them, right? The writers of Game of Thrones, you know. So writers of Game of Thrones, they claim Chat GPT, the OpenAI is using their data, like their books, to train their AI without their permission, right? So I think everybody has seen where Chat GPT is going with this and the money that might come out of it. But also, if you are using somebody's data unlawfully, you have to, pay for it. So they're also in court for this. This was, I think, on Tuesday this week, right? So they are in court. On Tuesday this week was when they filed this case, and 17 other writers have also joined because they think OpenAI is not asking the right permissions or is not paying for their intellectual property that they are using, right? So they are infringing on their copyrights. So this week was just full of lawsuits. With that, we are going to move into our topic for tonight. So what is Security Operations Center, right? SOC. Now in cybersecurity, there are, when we say, when you see SOC for the acronym, it can mean two things, right? Security Operations Center is one. What is the other one? Anybody knows? Or $1. The other one, when we talk about SOC.
System and organization control.
Service organization compliance.
Okay, say that again. The first one and then the second one, please.
System and organization controls.
Okay, and then the other one is what?
Service organization compliance.
Service organizational control.
Yes. So service organizational control and system and organizational, they are two, like they are both like one of the same, right?
One more.
Yes. Anybody else? Is there any
System
other
on
SOC that I'm not aware of?
System on chip.
Yes. Yes, true.
Yep.
But I think like that is big S, small O, and a big C. I think.
It is still SOC.
Yeah, it's still
you're
SOC. It's still SOC. Any other SOCs that maybe we do not know about?
Sarbanes-Oxley? I'm not sure.
So like that is X, not C.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. Okay,
That is
sorry.
SOX. Yes. All right, everyone. I appreciate everybody. So that shows that everybody is paying attention and we are all learning, right? So now when it comes to acronyms in cybersecurity, there is a whole range of them, and one acronym can mean like three things. Another example is MAC, M-A-C. There are different meanings to that, right? So mostly you have to look at it in context. Just MAC on its own can mean anything. So even if you are taking a certification exam and you see that, you have to, understand the context of the question to be able to pick or understand what MAC in there means, right? And also for acronyms, I'll encourage everybody to, you have to actively memorize them, because in certification exams and the rest, sometimes you have a question and all the answers will just be acronyms. And if you don't remember what those acronyms stand for, then obviously you are going to get the question wrong. So we are going to dive deep into Security Operations Center tonight. So this picture depicts what a Security Operations Center looks today. Now, in a physical Security Operations Center, it will look like this. Now we have different types of it. It can be virtual, it can be outsourced to somebody else and the rest. So we will look at all that as we move forward, right? So where did we start, and where did we come from to get to the fancy Security Operations Center that we were just looking at, right? So way back in the day, we had Security Operations Centers still, because we are constantly in warfare. right? Now the warfare is being fought in the cyberspace. So we are kind of evolving, we've evolved over time. Now they started, we always have to, in our line of defense, whether physical or logical, we always have to have some level of defense, right? And one of those level of defense is to conduct surveillance and gather intelligence, right? And to kind of game plan or guesstimate threats and plan accordingly for that. So these structures that we see here, I know everybody knows what they are used for and they are meant for. People who work in these structures, they cannot afford to sleep or to doze off, right? They don't have that luxury. You don't go in here to play on your cell phone or to, chill, quote unquote, chill or hang out or watch Netflix. This is not the place to do that. Nor this place is the place to do that. Why? Because if you're up in here, you have to be alert. You have to be, on the lookout. You have to look at whatever is, in your line of sight, because you are going to be the first line of defense when an attacker is coming the way of, whichever city, country, or army or group that you are trying to protect, right? So security operation centers, they kind of started similar to this, and we still have this, don't get that wrong, and they all still kind of contribute to security operation centers that we have in the military setup, and then also, but for us as security professionals in the cyberspace, I mean, we still have to protect, physical security is part of cybersecurity and information security. But when we are looking at it from the logical point of view, we are doing the same thing, right? We are constantly looking on the horizon, trying to see if there are any threats coming our way, and we are going to attack, or we are going to handle those incidents if we can handle some of those before, if we can prevent them before they actually materialize, or if they do happen, how do we handle that, in a very swift manner? So that is the idea and the basis behind our security operation centers. And sometimes they might look like this in the military setting. So gathering intelligence, looking through your binos, identifying if the enemy is coming or there are some drones running around and reporting and sending, information up the chain, right? So escalating any incident that you might, or in something that you might identify for further investigation, right? So let's get into the actual definition of security operation centers. So security operation centers, before, we all got fancy, it used to be an actual building where people work within it. So we had like security professionals working in that building or that facility. It is still there, right? But there are different types of it now where we have like virtual security operation centers as well. But your typical security operation centers looks like what we saw in the picture, right? So it looks, your typical security operation center will look like this. Maybe sometimes not as spacious as this or as fancy, but it's still a security operation center. And in today's day and age, and because of COVID and all other factors, we are able to do the same setup at home, right? So you can have different people, setting this up at home and working and watching traffic and seeing what is going on and reporting accordingly, right? Now, security operation centers, they are also sometimes referred to as information security operation centers. So SOC or just SOC. Information, if you see information security operation centers, is the same thing that we are referring to, right? Now is a facility that houses security professionals and technology that we are going to use to monitor, analyze, and respond to cyber threats or information security threats around the clock. So they do everything in real time. And mostly for security jobs, for your security operation centers, they mostly do 12-hour shifts, right? So 24/7, there is somebody or there is a group in there who are constantly watching and making sure that, threats are being mitigated and incidents are being handled and all that, right? So we see SOC in this context of security protection, analyzing and identifying threats, then we should know that our security operation centers is what we are referring to. And this now, it can be a building with people working in it. It can be a company, actually. It can be a full-blown software supported by a group of security professionals as well. We will look at all those dynamics as we move along, right? So, like I said, your SOC team can be working remote. They can be in a building, a normal security operation center setup as well, right? So, but they work around the clock to ensure that your company is safe and your company's security posture stays on the right side of security. Now, what is the main goal of, for companies setting up a security operations center? So the main goal is to gain high visibility on everything that is going on in terms of threats, the threat landscape, right? To be able to proactively try to mitigate some of these threats before they materialize, and then also not just the threats. Mostly we can only guesstimate, or we can estimate, or we can predict how threats is going to behave, but we don't really have any control over that, right? So mostly we have to mitigate or reduce our vulnerabilities within our setup, right, for us to be successful. But the goal of any SOC setup or any SOC team is to identify or have a good, handle when it comes to threats, the threat landscape, and then also monitoring traffic, reducing or monitoring traffic, handling incidents as well, right? So, and they do this in real time. They handle incidents. All incidents are handled under your incident response team, but it starts from the SOC team or the SOC group, and then it will escalate to your incident response when it becomes a full-blown incident that cannot be handled just by your SOC analyst, right? So your SOC team is mostly made up of a combination of different security professionals with different backgrounds and different skill sets. So we are going to look at the key functions of a SOC. So SOC team, or the SOC itself, Security Operations Center, what do they do? What are their key functions? So right in this diagram, we can see prevention and proactive monitoring, security intelligence. So they do gather intelligence and that is all part of the proactiveness of what they do. Recovery and remediation, incidents, handling incidents is one of their babies. Now, the most important thing that, SOC helps the whole entire security group with is alerts, right? They have their technologies and systems set in and their tools to pick up on certain types of threats and incidents really at a very good pace, right? Or in real time. That way we can easily react to it. And they manage all the alerts as well, right? Log management, compliance, security posture, refinements, and intelligence, security intelligence, gathering, recovery, and remediation. We talked about that. So remediation and recovery obviously go hand in hand with incidents response, right? So these are the key functions of a SOC group or your SOC infrastructure that you might have in your company. This is what they are supposed to do. So we looked at almost all of these. So still looking at it by list, not the diagram. Designing and implementing security solutions. Now, something that the diagram didn't touch on, which kind of also is part of what they do, is developing and implementing security policies and procedures, right? Awareness training, huge one, huge one, right? Awareness training is part of the proactiveness of ensuring that your staff, your employees, they know what they are supposed to do and what they are not supposed to do. Analyzing log, network traffic, that is a given. That is what they do on a daily basis. Performing vulnerability assessments, yes. Providing threat intelligence reports, also, that is also part of some of the key functions of a SOC team, right? So for the SOC team, aside, we are going to look at like the different components of a SOC team, but as part of their duties, they can also conduct forensics investigation, malware analysis, and the rest, in addition to what we looked at already. And then also threat hunting is also part of, is at tier 3, yes, tier 3, when it comes to the different levels of tier, which we are going to look at here shortly. So when it comes to handling security incidents, the SOC team has it, broken down into different levels, and they call it tiers, right? So into different levels, they have like key functions that they perform, but they've broken it down. That is why when you will see some job titles such as security analyst or SOC analyst tier 1, SOC analyst tier 2, SOC analyst tier 3. So if you are wondering what is tier 1, what is tier 2, what is tier 3, we are going to break it down here for you to understand. Right? So for the handling of incidents, they've structured, or they have like a tier structure that helps them to account for what they are going to do if there is an incident that they have to handle, right? And also for every tier, there is a certain level of skill and experience that you need, right, to be able to function in that space. So tier 1 is triaging, right? You can look at it more from the perspective of what we do, what nurses and doctors and the health professionals do at the hospital as well, right? If you go to the emergency, they are doing triaging. When people come in, when there is a need, so the emergency will call an incident, right? When there's an incident, somebody just fell, they rush the person in there. What do they do? So in the emergency, they learn how to do triage, right? And what is triage? Now, Randall comes in with a broken nose. Somebody else, John, comes in with a broken arm. Another person, Michael, comes in with blood just, gushing out of his neck. Which of these people, they all came in at the same time. Which of these people do we attend to first? Right. So you can say, okay, if there are 3 nurses, then they all look at. So what if it's not just, we have 3 nurses, but then we have like 15 people coming at the same time with different levels of problems? Which one do we look at first? That is what we do for triaging, right? Being able to prioritize and streamline, okay, which ones are we tackling first? Which one is life-threatening? Because if somebody is just, bleeding from their arteries, they might probably, die if you don't treat them in the next maybe 1 to 5 minutes or something, as compared to somebody with a broken nose. I mean, a broken nose is also a problem, but compared to somebody who is bleeding, if you are losing blood at that rate, your chances of survival is a bit slim. So we are not going to waste time treating somebody's broken nose whilst, somebody is bleeding to death, right? So same thing here. When there is an incident or when something happens, we have to look at whether it's an event or a natural incident. Even for incidents, we have different criticalities, right? So different criticalities when it comes to incidents. Now, level 1, when it comes to the SOC tiers, level 1 is triage. We are going to explain more into that. Level 2 is investigation. Level 3 is threat hunting. And it goes in this order. So level 3 is above level 2. Level 1 is below level 2, right? So anything that happens level 1, once level 1 handles it and is out of their expertise, they'll push it up to level 2, right? And level 2 will handle it and then push it up to level 3. So that is how it works. Now we are going to look at it individually. So for level 1, that is for triage. And for level 1, if you work within the level 1 space, you are a SOC analyst level 1, right? So for level 1 is the first level when it comes to your security operations center. And for tier 1 personnel, they are responsible for triaging incoming security incidents, just like how we broke it down with the hospital scenario, right? It includes identifying the source of the problem, the source of the incident, the scope of the damage or the scope of the incident, assessing the impact to our network, to our organization. And then what they also do is they will escalate it to the next level. So for their responsibilities for a tier 1 analyst, your responsibility after identifying, so you are going to do some identification. You're also going to, identify the scope. You are going to identify the impact or guesstimate the impact. And then you are responsible for providing initial response. So if it is something that they can handle at their level, they will easily handle it, right? They try to do some of the containment as well, which if you know the incident response steps, you will be able to easily understand this or function in there. If you don't know, for incident response steps, anybody from any of our not security, anybody from the internship, not the PCR internship, but for the cybersecurity entry-level internship, who has gone through incident response, if you can list or tell everybody what the list of items you have to cover when it comes to incident response. How do we respond to incidents? What are the steps? You can raise your virtual hand. Anybody in here who wants to help out? Or I can just pick somebody from the list that I can easily remember. Oh, anybody?
Yeah, preparation, detection, and identification, containment, eradication, recovery.
Yes.
Communication.
Yes, thank you. So we first have to, if there is a problem, we first have to identify and verify the problem, right? To make sure, okay, indeed, it's an event or it's an incident. If it's an event, we don't really escalate it to another level. We just solve it right there. If it's an incident and we can still, so if it's an incident, then we are going to go full blown into the steps when it comes to incidents response. So if it's an incident, we've confirmed that, we've done our investigation, identified and investigated that, then we are going to move into containment. If there is a fire and we confirm there is a fire, we have to make sure the fire stays where it is. It's not going to spread, right? So we contain it right there. So the incident, will be the fire that we are talking about. We have to contain it. Now, after we've contained it, we have to get rid of it. So eradication, we have to eradicate the problem. And then once eradication is done, we've been able to get rid of the problem, we move into recovery, because we have to bring back or we have to reinstate the original state that our system or our kitchen was in, right? That way we can go back and still make it work as it used to. Although we are not going to get it exactly as it was, it's going to take time, but these are the steps. So we have to first, so is your SOC tier 1, they are going to do the identification to confirm the extent, what type, the source, and then once that is done, they also have to contain it, right? So they will provide the initial response and containment measures. And then from there, they are going to escalate it to, if they are not able to eradicate it at their level, they are going to push it up for further investigation to really, because the more you know about the problem, the easier it becomes for you to solve or eradicate the problem, right? So they all work seamlessly between your tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, right? So for tier 1, that is what you are going to be doing in this space. Now, for experience level for tier 1, they are the least experienced when it comes to the tiers, tier 1 to 3. Tier 1 is obviously the least experienced, but then also tier 1 mostly takes a lot of time, sometimes depending on the type of incident. Tier 1 and tier 2, they take most of the time when it comes to handling SOC incidents that might occur, right? So your tier 1 typically lists experienced analysts, and their primary function is to monitor logs and events for suspicious activities, but then they go a little bit, beyond that, right? Now, depending on how the organization have it set up and how your SOC team, operates, sometimes some of the duties for tier 1, tier 2, there will be a little bit of overlap, right? But specifically for tier 1, you are the first point of call. So you don't have that luxury of sleeping or chilling on the job. You have to be active, and you have to be somebody who really pays attention to detail. So we are going to move on to tier 2. So tier 2 is the investigation portion of this. Now, it is the second level when it comes to SOC, your security operations center team. Your level 2 is the investigation Tier 2 is the investigation. Now, Tier 2 personnel, they are responsible for investigating the security incidents and also determining the root cause. If you know the root cause, you are almost, I think you're almost like 80% there when it comes to eradicating the problem. If you know the root cause, you'll be able to easily put that fire off, right? So it's like if there's a fire and you know the source of the fire, if it was electric, if it was the gas, if it was, you know the type of fire extinguisher to use. If you don't, you probably be, using the wrong type of fire extinguisher and the fire is not going to go out, right? So it includes analyzing logs, network traffic, data, and data sources, identifying the source of the incident. But some of these might have been a little bit, or they might have had a lead from Tier 1, right? So you just pick it from there and dig deeper into it. And Tier 2 personnel, they are also responsible for providing a detailed incident response report and recommendations for remediation, right? Tier 3 also does similar thing when it comes to incident response reports and also recommendations for remediation, right? So we will move into Tier 3. Now, Tier 3 is threat hunting. So Tier 3, they are more proactive, right? Whilst Tier 1 and 2 are trying to figure out and solve their problems. They are also, on the other side, they are also being very proactive by actively hunting for threats, right? Hunting for threats and trying to identify vulnerabilities that might exist within the organization, right? And they also do, they say, similar to what the Tier 2 would do, analyzing logs, networks, data sources, and the rest. But their goal is they don't wait for an incident to happen before they do that, or they don't wait for something to have happened. They constantly do that on a daily basis to help identify and gather more threat intelligence to help the company to be more proactive, right? So they provide detailed threat intelligence reports and recommendations as well for remediation, right? So for Tier 3, that is what they do. And for Tier 3, they are the most experienced when it comes to the levels, right? They are the most experienced, and they also support complex incident response, and they spend, the rest of their time trying to do some forensics based on the data that they've gathered. And also if, they detect any suspicious activities from, the activities, that will help with the proactiveness part of helping the organizational security posture, right? So like I was saying, on average, companies will spend more time when it comes to Tier 1 and Tier 2 activities than Tier 3. But Tier 3 should also have a good chunk of time because you have to stay ahead of the bad guys. You have to stay ahead of malicious actors, right? So you have to be more proactive. And Tier 3 analysts are going to be the ones who are going to help us to do that. So with that, we are going to look at a quick summary of everything that we looked at. So for Tier 1, predominantly you are monitoring, you are opening tickets, you are closing false positives. So some of the reason why you'll be identifying or you'll be doing the initial investigation into supposedly incidents is probably it will be a false positive, it's probably not an incident. So you just go ahead and close that out. And basic, investigation and mitigation is what you are going to do for a Tier 1 analyst. For Tier 2, deep investigation, that will lead into the incident response team, mitigation and recommendation and recommending changes, and then also mitigation, recommending remediation strategies as well. Now Tier 3, advanced investigation. So anything that is beyond Tier 2, they are going to push it to Tier 3. And then for Tier 3, they are also very proactive, prevention, threat hunting, forensics, counterintelligence, and malware reversals as well. So I think everybody has a good warm and fuzzy exactly how these tiers work. So if you're applying for any job and they have SOC analyst Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, you know exactly what you are getting yourself into, right? So now let's look at when it comes to your security operations center, there are different structures that we are going to look at. So when it comes to the formation of it, right, typically we have 4 main components that makes up your SOC structure, right? So within different organizations, the SOC architecture, we have 4 main components. So the first component is a SOC, the group that will monitor and that will manage the organization's security posture, right? The second is the security operations manager, or the security operation management aspect of it. The third is the security analyst and monitoring analysis of logs and the rest part of it. And then the last one, security engineers and architects, who are responsible for designing and implementing security solutions to protect the organization's environments, right? So these are the four main components that will make up every SOC team, right? So now we are going to look at the actual team, like the components of the team in terms of people and the roles, right? So for your SOC team, it can be in person, it can be outsourced, it can be, we will look at all that, it can be virtual. So that is what this slide is talking about. So, and there is also another concept that is the SOC hub and spoke or architecture. So for this, mostly we will have a centralized SOC team, and then we'll have like different or subnets of the SOC team. And what they do, we call those spokes. So what they do is they are going to report to the main hub, which is like the central hub, and they will handle different sectors of the company. And then we have like the main centralized SOC team that will oversee the little sub teams that are there, right? So that is also another way of looking at it, kind of similar to what we have in this picture. So you have your main SOC team here, and then you have different, depending on how the organization is structured and how they are, spread over the world or over whichever geographical area that they might be. Now, when it comes to SOC responsibilities and roles, we are going to look at this briefly, and then we will jump into the actual different roles, right? So based on the four main functional areas in a SOC, we are able to come up with the roles. So you have a SOC manager, you have a compliance auditor, you have an incident responder or incident response team, you have SOC analyst team or group, and you have threat hunters, right? So tier 3, sometimes they double up as threat hunters, right? Tier 3 SOC analysts, they will double up as threat hunters also as well. So for your SOC manager, we are going to look at everybody's exact job, role, and description, right? But this is just a summary of all of it. So we are just going to move on into. So when it comes to staffing, everything that we looked at is what is on here. So your security manager, your analysts, your incident responders, your engineers and architects, and security investigators, we are going to look at them individually. So when it comes to their individual roles, a SOC manager, your job is day-to-day operations of the SOC, right? So developing and implementing security policies and procedures, as well as providing awareness training for the whole entire company and also for your SOC team, right? And everybody within the SOC team. Now, for this managerial role, is sometimes 70% soft skills and 30%, technical cybersecurity, like cybersecurity knowledge, and skill, right? So it's a mixture, sometimes 60%, depending on the company and what they are looking for. But for your day-to-day activities and what you're going to be doing, a cast across board is about 60% soft skills, because you need to have some leadership and managerial skills. So if you have that already coming from another field, you can easily leverage yourself together with the 30%, 40% cybersecurity knowledge and skill that you have, and be able to easily function in there. Now, with advanced security analysts, we are looking at your threat hunters or your tier 3 folks. They are responsible for proactively hunting for threats and vulnerabilities within the organization's environment. And they do that through analyzing logs, traffic, network traffic, and other sources of data to identify potential vulnerabilities. Now, incident responders, they are not part of your SOC analyst group, right? They might have one person from your SOC analyst group, so tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, be part of, we can have one of them being part of the incident response team, right? Which rightly so, because they are going to be part of the steps, the steps that we just discussed, right? You can have your tier one in there helping with the initial identification and verification of the supposedly incident. And if it's confirmed and they push it up, it is eventually going to come back to your incident response group. So incident responders, they respond to incidents, including identifying the source of the incident, determining the scope and the magnitude of it, and then doing recovery, doing remediation, and the rest. So our engineers, we looked at what they do already. They are responsible for designing, engineers and architects responsible for designing and implementing great security solutions to help the company stay on the right side of security. So the tools that they can put in place and the different layers of defense, firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and different solutions, antivirus, anti-malware, software, and the rest, right? And security investigators, they are kind of your forensics folks. So this will still cut across tier 3, thereabout, right? So they can be either part of your tier 3 or, they can be standalone. So they are responsible for investigating incidents, also digging deeper into it, identifying the root cause and the rest. And they also use logs, analyzing logs, traffic, and the rest as well. Right. Now, aside the typical, list that we saw, this is also a list of some of the roles, specialty roles that might also be part of your SOC team, or that might be part of the SOC group, right? So malware analyst or reverse engineers, threat hunters, who are mostly going to be in your tier 3, or they can also be mapped to tier 2, and your forensics analyst or your forensic specialist, your vulnerability managers, and consulting roles as well. So this is a diagram breaking this down, making it a bit easy and to make more sense. So you have your incident response coordinators. So you have your tier 3, tier 2, tier 1. Now, anything tier 1 can't handle is escalated to tier 2, and tier 2 will also do the same, escalate that to tier 3, right? And so as we are moving up, we are decreasing number and increasing severity, right? So if it is not that severe and they can handle it at this level, it's not going to go up, right? And if we have maybe 10 incidents, for it to get up here, out of the 10, it's probably going to be 2 or 3, right? Dependent. So as it's going up, the number of cases or the number of incidents are reducing, but the severity, and if they move it up, it means it's a serious case. So that is what this is referring to. Now, when it comes to collaboration, there's a collaboration between this group and everybody else that we mentioned, who are not necessarily going to be within this group, right? So your blue team specialist, your red team specialist, your security engineers, and the rest. And then you have the consultants also down here, right? Also, sharing information and consulting with this team as well. And overall, your SOC manager is going to be responsible for everybody in here. Everybody in here. That is why a lot of soft skills is involved for this, right? So you can be the best, or you can be the most technical cybersecurity person in the world. If you can't manage people or you can't deal with people, look at all the people who are in here with all the moving pieces. You are going to really mess this up, right? So if you have a lot of management leadership skills coming in, and you want to go into the SOC area, leadership spots or like the managerial position like this can be something that you can look into. Now, your SOC manager reports to the CISO, and everybody else external to this whole group will also be under the CISO. So everybody else will be under CISO, and they are going to support. And so that is what this whole diagram is looking like. This is the explanation of the whole diagram. Like, so, and also down here we have some legend for you to look at. So anything black is management role, anything blue is technical roles. So all these are technical roles. You need to know your stuff, right? And the yellow is a consulting role. So for consulting role, you are providing advice. You are not necessarily going to be the one doing the work. right? So if also you know your stuff, you can also work in the consulting role. So what does it take to become a SOC analyst? That is the big question. So to excel or to become a SOC analyst, you need to possess some set of skills aside your technical cybersecurity skills or your cybersecurity skills and knowledge in general. You need to be curious. You need to be willing to spend long hours learning, long hours sitting down, researching and digging into stuff, right? If you are not that type, then this job is not going to be the right fit for you, right? You need to also, so for the technical side, you need to know security tools. Now for the tools, I'm not, like I always tell everybody, I'm not very too much worried about the tools. You just need to know some of it. You can't know all the tools. Nobody knows all the tools. But when you get on, like if you know some of it and you get on the job, you can easily, like they will train you on the ones that they have. And sometimes you get there and they are even acquiring more tools. So nobody in their workplace even knows how to use that tool. Everybody has to be trained on, right? So for security tools, yes. But what is going to set you apart is having a good working knowledge in security, right? Having a good working knowledge in security. For tools, anybody can learn tools. You can teach anybody how to use a tool in a day or two, they will be fine. But if your fundamentals are weak, even using the tools, you run into issues. Now, networking, you have to also, because for the SOC, specifically for the SOC space, you have to be really up to speed when it comes to your networking fundamentals. So now let's move into, and also in general, good IT networking. So like that is what I was talking about, networking and security principles. So your fundamental security knowledge and skills, and specifically here, because you are dealing with traffic and stuff, you have to also be really up to speed when it comes to networking. So IT networking, not human networking. I mean, human networking will also play a very good role here as well, but we are going to jump into some major areas like your educational background and the rest. So for educational background, although we have one here, generally bachelor's degree in computer science and information security, that is not, if you don't have that, you can still be a SOC analyst, right? It's not necessarily a big requirement that if you don't have, you're automatically disqualified, right? You can have a degree in anything and you can work in cybersecurity. You can have a degree in nothing and still work in cybersecurity, right? Mostly what employers are looking for is, can you help them move from A to B? Can you actually do the job? You have the knowledge and skill, right? So if you have a degree in computer science and the rest is a plus, or in any other related area is a plus. If you don't, it's not really going to be a big negative to you, right? And some organization will be looking for certifications, others not so much. So any experience that you have coming from your other transferable skills, your soft skills and the rest coming into this space, when it comes to education, mostly if you have a very good working knowledge in cybersecurity, and you're able to speak the language, you understand what is going on, you should be good for this part. So for education, don't say because the traditional bachelor's degree in IT something is going to be what is going to prevent you. No, that is not going to prevent you. Right? Now, when it comes to cybersecurity knowledge, you should have a good working knowledge in cybersecurity. And what do I mean by a good working knowledge? You should have a good working knowledge in all the major areas when it comes to fundamental cybersecurity. So cybersecurity concepts, cyber areas like networking, cryptography, identity and access management, risk management, and the rest. You should have a good working knowledge in all those areas, right? So you are not necessarily going to be a network guru or cryptographic guru or any of those, but you have to have a good working knowledge. That way you can understand what is going on. You can understand threats and, the threat landscape, right? And you can escalate problems when they do happen or incidents, right? So familiarity with the threat landscape is also going to help. So for frameworks like OWASP Top 10, MITRE and ATT&CK, and the rest is going to be your go-to. because you have to be up to speed when it comes to threats and how to mitigate some of these threats, right, out there. All right. So for general cybersecurity knowledge, that is what I'm going to, talk about. Now, when it comes to technical expertise, this like SOC analyst, if you are going just within the space of the SOC tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, is I would say is 60, 70, 80%, technical. And technical doesn't mean you are going to be doing coding. But technical here meaning you have to understand, have a good working knowledge in cybersecurity, understand cybersecurity concepts and theories, understand cybersecurity tools, right? Which tool is used for what? Now, when it comes to cybersecurity tools, there are general categorizations for them. So we have SIM tools, we have vulnerability scanning tools, and under those we have brand names, right? So we have brand names under those. So it's just like if we look at cars, there are different categorizations. We have sedan, we have SUVs, we have that under each of those we have brands. So Mercedes have their own SUV, Infinity will have their own SUV, right? They have their own sedan. So same with tools. There are SIM tools. Now QRadar is a brand name, Splunk is a brand name, right? Archer is a brand name under SIM tools, right? Now, if you know how to use one of these SIM tools, you can literally use them all, right? You just need small orientation and you should be good. Now, with some of these tools, you don't have to wait to get employed before you can use them, right? One, you can join our entry-level course, the hands-on training, you can learn those tools, or if you want to do self-study or just practice on your own, some of these vendors, when you go to their websites, they have free versions of the tools that you can download and learn how to use on your own, right? So your experience in your technical proficiency in using these tools, it doesn't have to be a paid experience, or you don't have to wait and say, I don't have experience, so I'm waiting to get employed, right? It's just like you telling the wood to give you fire before you actually give the wood fire to start burning and give you heat, or telling the wood to give you heat before you put put fire on it, right? So you don't have to wait. Most people get into that space. I don't have experience, and because of that, I'm not able to get jobs and stuff. But then what are you sitting at home doing? You can go to these websites, go to Splunk, go to QRadar, go to the rest. Download these tools if you want to learn on your own. Download the free ones, figure it out. Or if not, you can join the entry-level course. We walk you through how to use these tools. So those are some of the ways that you can learn these tools, right? So anybody on here who wants to go this route, when it comes to tools, please don't say because I didn't officially work in the cybersecurity space or somewhere, I don't know any of these tools. You know them. And one of the tools that everybody also underestimates all the time, and I think Michael mentioned it last time, Excel. Learn how to use Excel. I mean, nobody's going to teach you Excel in any company. For tools, Splunk and the rest, they are going to rent you or teach you. But for Excel, PowerPoint, because you're going to be doing reports, PowerPoint, Word document, I mean, those you can learn on your own. Or go to YouTube, somebody is there teaching Excel 101 and the rest, right? So when it comes to tools, just know the tools, know the categorization, know the brand names, and familiarize yourself with some of these tools. I mean, I've given you all those, that information that is really going to help set you apart already. So when it comes to analytical skills, you have to really be on top of your game. So one, you have to pay attention to detail. You have to be somebody who loves to research. You have to be curious, right? Research is the key, right? Because problems you are going to run into, you always have to dig into it, research more about it for you to be able to move it up or handle it at your level. So you are responsible for monitoring. We are going to be dealing with a lot of data. So how do you, go through this data and make sense out of it? Although you have automated systems that are going to help you do that, but if you still can't analyze, the data that you have been presented with, or the summary of data you have been presented with, then, you are not going to be as effective, right? So being analytical, mostly I would say it's a skill that you can easily learn. And if you have some of it, or you are just being curious, like your curiosity is really going to push you to that level, right? And as you are working, you are going to gain some more tips and tricks on how to easily, because you would have seen most of the issues and problems and patterns already, right? So it's very easy to make a good judgment calls on those. And communication skills, is super needed, right? Communication skills is super needed because you are not going to be working alone. You are going to be working at, we saw the whole table, everybody who is involved in the SOC group, right? A lot of people and a lot of communication between different teams. So strong written and verbal communication skills is needed. So when you look at SOC analyst job descriptions, when you look at the skills portion, you see the strong written and verbal communication skills, right? Presentation skills. So they will say, yeah, oral or verbal communication skills. So it is very needed because you are going to be working with different groups. And then also when there's a problem and you have to push it up the hierarchy, you have to be able to break it down and explain for them to exactly get what you are trying to put across, right? Because if you are not able to describe what is going on well, how well do you think they'll be able to also take it up and try to fix it? So great communication skills is also needed here. Now your analytical skills and great communication skills can be from any other field, bringing it into cybersecurity, right? So all those are transferable skills. Now let's look at the types of security operations centers. We have the traditional dedicated self-managed security operations centers. Example is what we looked at. So your company has a building or a room, where they've set up everything, and your analysts are there monitoring traffic and responding to alerts. And we have the distributed SOC. So the distributed one, we have it where we have our own in-house security operation centers, and we've outsourced part of our security operation center operations to a managed security service provider, right? MSSP. And there's another one, the command SOC. That is with the command SOC, like the example that we saw, the hub and the spokes, mostly with the hub, they will gather intelligence and they will distribute it to the different subnets, right? So mostly they don't actually do the responding and the rest. They are just there to collect intelligence and distribute it to the other subdivisions, right? And then we have the fusion center. This is an advanced SOC group because it's a combination of, some also other mini subgroups and different teams coming together to form that fusion center. And we have multifunctional SOC. So multifunctional SOC team, will also include a dedicated facility and then also an in-house staff that together with a group like the group that we saw, almost everybody also forming part of this. And we have our virtual security operations center where there is no physical building. Everybody is working from home from different locations, right? But we are still able to get the job done. Now, this is very common. The virtual SOC is very common. And we have the security operations center as a service, right? Now we have as a service for everything, as a service. So this, you can, some companies have come up with software that is able to help manage your service center operations just straightly through that software. And they have some SOC analysts on their side who will help to, if there is any problem, they will go through the steps, escalate it to SOC 2, SOC tier 2, tier 3, right? So that is also a way that we handle our SOC operations now. Now, when we look at, we are going to look at some of the SOC as a service. So with the SOC as a service, some of the vendor or the brand names, because SOC as a service is a software, right? So if we go back a little bit to our deployments in the cloud, like we go back to our cloud lessons, when you look at the different models, we have platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, software as a service. Now, SOC as a service is part of software as a service. It's under software as a service, right? So these companies, they come up with this software and it will act as your SOC operation, as your security operation center. right? So some of the brand names here is what we have in this list. Arctic Wolf is a very big one. Rapid7, they have their own. Sophos also is a big one. Sematech is also a big one. Astra Pentest, I've not really encountered a company using it, but it's also there. And Qualys is a big one. Nestroom is also a big one. So this one I've not also seen it used anywhere, right? But they are the whole list of it. Everybody is coming up with different products of late, so you can dig more into that. Now, some of the tools, aside the software as a service, the software as a service version that we looked at, right? Some of the tools, the typical tools that you have within your security operations center is the list that we see on the screen. So SIM is a big one, right? SIM is like on the top of the list when it comes to tools for your security operations center. Now you have intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention systems, your SOC tools, your security analytics platforms, your endpoint detection and response tools, your vulnerability management solutions, your data loss prevention solutions, identity and access management solutions, firewalls, and the rest, right? So with these are some of the major categories of tools. Under these tools, they are brand names, just like the ones that we saw, right? So companies who are coming up with these tools, they have their own, names for their tools that they are using. So for you to really be up to speed when it comes to tools, you have to first know the different categories of tools, and then at least know one or two brand names under these categories, right? And that is not even just for a SOC analyst job or anything, but in security in general, right? That way, when it comes to tools, you go to interviews or you're on the job and they are looking for a solution and you're talking about, what data loss prevention tools are you familiar with, or which ones can we purchase, which is the best? First, you should know data loss prevention is a category when it comes to security tools. Now, what are some of the brand names under data loss prevention? So that is what I'm referring to. Now you can dig more into this and do your own research. And this is, Proofpoint is one of them. Yes, so you can easily, dig more into this and online. If you go online, there's a whole list. Everybody is trying to sell their tools. So, and some of these tools, like I said, you can download free versions of each of these categories and practice with it. Your own laptop can be your work area that you are scanning, you just have to know how to move around in these tools. That is all you need to do, frankly. And on the job, you can use it to do anything. So if they ask you, do you know how to use this? Of course. If you've been playing around with it at home, of course you know how to use it. Because if they give you the chance and okay, so go in there, open a file, do this, do that, you'll be able to still do that. Right? So SIM solutions, like I said, SIM is a big one. So that is why we are just taking a look at SIM by itself. And for SIM, it looks like this. So for SIM tools, unlike other tools, the SIM is not really going to produce or generate data on its own. It is going to gather data from other tools that you have and other devices and other systems, and it will just group it in one area, make sense out of it, right? Categorize it, streamline it, and it will help you really in real time track alerts and see what is going on overall within your organizational setup. Right? So for your SIM tools, it will be picking information from your routers, switches, firewalls, your servers, intrusion detection systems, and the rest. And everything will be gathered here for you to just, at a glance, you'll be able to see your security posture. And SOC tools can also help you do this, because now with SOC tools, they have SIM tools inside SOC tools, right? So it's really pretty fun if you just start digging into these tools. It's not really, it's not a rocket science. So even if it's rocket science, people have degrees in rocket science. There's not something that you cannot do, right? All right, so what are some of the best practices when it comes to a winning SOC team? So your SOC team, what can you do to really make it functional and to be a winning SOC team? You have to focus on your staff and your personnel. So we've talked about all these tools, but guess what your greatest tool is in your SOC? group or in your SOC team? People, right? Who is going to work with these tools that we are talking about? Who is going to manage it? Who is going to configure it? People. So if you neglect people and you just focus on tools, you are really doing yourself a big disservice, because your biggest gun in this fight is your people, not the tools that you are using. The tools will help augment everything, but it's the people who breathe life into the tools that you are using, right? Into the processes that you have in place. So people, focusing on your people, training your people, augmenting your team with automation and machine learning, that is big. Now, most of these tools, they have their own, machine learning, AI thing going on. Automating your workflow. So we were talking about that, like what SOC analysts tier 1, tier 2, they are supposed to do. The process that they go through has to be automated. It has to be seamless, right? If something happens, boom, you move to this step, we move to this step. We are using this tool to send this up. We are using this to do the ticketing. So we have to really automate our workflow, right, to make us effective as a SOC team. And auditing your environment to reduce risks. So you have to be proactive. Now, this is more tier 3. You have to be more proactive. And then also something called tool sprawl. So, go for it. All right. So who knows this? What is tool sprawl? Anybody?
I can take a guess. I guess it's like access creep. So maybe
Yes.
just having too many tools replicating same things, abilities that, could maybe just be done by fewer tools than you really have.
Yes, you are right. It's similar to privilege creep, right? Just compiling tools, just adding. Some companies are really very skilled in this. They just keep adding tools because they think tools are going to solve all their problems, and they ignore everything else. So they just keep adding tools, and now you have like 3 tools that are doing the same thing, and they don't maintain these tools well. Their certificates will expire, and they don't know, and nobody's tracking these tools. Now you are just increasing your attack surface and just causing more problems for yourself. So on regular basis, you have to audit your environment for tools that are just there because they are there, or somebody convinced somebody to buy it and they just bought it and they are just adding it to something that they have already, right? It's just like still like privilege creep, just having somebody accumulate so many privileges within the organization to the point where if they get breached, we are all screwed because they have access to everything within the company. Right? So to SPRA, we have to do regular audits to make sure, the ones that we are not using, or we are monitoring everything and making sure we are in control of all our tools, right? Because when it comes to the SOC space, there is a lot of tools. And so if you don't keep, tabs on these tools, they might get out of hand. So what are some of the best practices when it comes to your SOC team? Establishing your SOC, obviously, make sure your company has a SOC team in place, developing security policies and procedures. That is more tier 3, implementing or your managerial level. So aside your tier 3 is going to be your security manager doing this, implementing security solutions, monitoring and analyzing your logs, providing security awareness training, performing vulnerability assessment, and responding to incidents. Right? So for your security best practices, or what every SOC group or team should go through is what we've just listed. So we are going to wrap up with our SOC. Maybe next time we are going to go a bit deeper into other areas of SOC, but our new PCI class will be starting in October on the 16th. So you are very welcome to join us. If you go to our website, all the information is on there. And this is a career path for PCI for us. You can go through, when we start the course, you go through the crash course, cybersecurity crash course, to get warm and fuzzy again with cybersecurity, and then we go through our modules. And then you finish, do your internship for 2 months or a month and a half, depending on which path the specialist or the expert that you chose. And then also our internship, we are starting a new cohort in October as well. So you can also join us. That is October 21st, right? And with that, if you have some security background, you want really hands-on to work on different projects, incident response, audits, risk management, this is the place to be. We will be in groups. We pair the groups with one of our sister companies, and we control the projects you work on. We discuss and teach you the projects. You go work on it with your team, and then we move on to other projects. So we are with that. Also, these are the payment options. We have a lot of different payment options on our website that you can go through. Right. So this is our contact on here. Please visit eretmisacademy.com if you've not already done so, and you will be able to, go through any of our free training as well. Right. So we are going to open the floor for questions. If there are any questions or any comments or any add-ons, we are going to take that before we wrap it up for tonight. I think there were some in the chats. We are yet to look at that. Okay, so I don't think these were really questions. Any questions for the group before we wrap up for the night? And for our interns, we are still meeting tomorrow, same time for both groups, 10 and 11. For anybody who met at 10 and 11 is the same times. All right, everyone. Appreciate everybody's time. So hopefully we all learned something from this. And for anyone looking to get into the SOC team or to get into the SOC space, there are different roles that you can leverage your skill set that you have either already in the security space or skill sets you are bringing from outside. Right. So if you want to go into the very technical part, analyst level 1, level 2, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or consulting roles, or managerial roles, you can handle. If you can handle any of those, you can apply for those areas as well. So I think most of the myth that is around the SOC space has been debunked or has been cleared. So. I appreciate everybody's time. Elikum, go ahead, and we will wrap it up.
Yeah, I don't actually have a question, but I just wanted to let you know I'm sending you a text, so please take a look.
Okay, very well.
Thank you.
Very well. All right, I appreciate everybody's time. Have a great weekend.
Dr. Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, please, if you're a cybersecurity analyst, right? Can you also work as a SOC? Can you work in the SOC environment?
Say that again, please.
If you're a cybersecurity analyst, right? Can you work as can you work in the SOC environment?
So everybody working in the SOC environment is a cybersecurity professional. So if it's just a job title, you can work as a cybersecurity analyst, you can work as a SOC analyst, but virtually you are doing, depending on where you are working, you are doing similar things, or the goal behind what you are doing is almost the same, right? So if you're at the end of the day, you're a cybersecurity professional, whether you are working as an incident responder, you are working as a third-party risk management, whatever, you are working as a SOC 2, tier 1, you are all cybersecurity professionals. So it's not really, most people, we should get out of that space of labeling ourselves with job titles, because job titles are only job titles. Hopefully that helps.
Sure, thank you.
Yes. So you are not doing something really outside cybersecurity. They all fall under cybersecurity. And I think somebody was asking for the number for the WhatsApp group. And also we have a WhatsApp group if you want to be part of it. The number is on there. You can send a request and we will add you to it. So we posted the number in the chats. We can add you to the group. That way, when we send out invitations for Cyber Chat and the rest, you have access to it. So I think there is a number in here, Rod. Okay, so Rod, please kindly send send a message. Okay. So whenever you are done, we are going to take note of your number, and whenever you are done, you can always, send a text to this number, and they will add it. All right, everyone. I appreciate everybody's time. Have a great weekend. We are going to meet next week. Somebody has a question? Richard, go ahead.
Can we have the recording of this?
Yes, like the recording will be posted. It will be sent out when it is ready. But we were streaming live on YouTube. So if you go to our YouTube channel, Eretmis Academy on YouTube, you will see the live stream as well, right? And I entreat everybody to also go in there and subscribe to the channel and promote it, because that is how other folks are also able to benefit from this, right? And then also our intent of spreading cybersecurity knowledge is also going to get far. Appreciate everybody's time. Without any more questions, we are wrapping it up. Go ahead, Felix. Felix.
Yeah, I said that's how I got to know Eretmis. It was just searching on the internet, on the YouTube, that I fell onto you.
Okay. So I think everybody on here should subscribe to our channel.
I'm trying to get in contact with Michael. I sent him my private text, but it's like he's not seeing it. Please, Michael, can you check your? I sent the private text to you on this chat.
Okay. I'll look into that, Felix.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, everyone. I appreciate everybody's time, but please go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way, Felix and others can find it again. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate everybody's time. Have a great weekend, and we'll meet again next week, Friday, for another edition of Cyber Chat. Have a great one, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.